Hi, welcome to the Slow Medicine Wellness Talk. Today we have an interesting show. My husband, Dr. Michael Finkelstein, will be hopping on soon. He's in California, and we have an interesting talk today. So he'll be with us in just a few moments.
There he is. I just did
Hey there.
a little intro. Hi,
And how are you?
I'm great. Little chilly here on the East Coast. I told the audience that we're doing a little bi-coastal show today, and you've got your white linen on. How's the weather in beautiful Encinitas?
It's as usual, 80 degrees, sunny. It has been a little hazy here though, because it's the fires from the east, about 50 miles away, not even, are coming through here a little bit. So at least the smoke is. So it's a little hazier than normal, but it is beautiful here.
Wow. Okay. So I just shared sorry guys, my phone just fell. So why don't you begin, Michael, with our topic? I need to set up my readjust. My phone just fell.
Okay. Well, first, let me say, Robin, you look really nice today.
Oh, thank you. That's sweet.
I like your glasses. So the subject that we were discussing last week was about change and the difficulty people have in general with change, and how much change is being imposed on us right now, it seems, from external forces. And just as a setup for that, that was a subject. We then got into how some of the difficulty we have experiencing change has a lot to do with how we interpret the experience and the story we tell ourselves.
Right.
The story, which is not only what we're dealing with in the moment, but how we predict the experience and the future. And as many people know, that when we think about the future, dwell in the future, we lose track of the present.
Right.
We can get very anxious about the future, and we could be, let's say, celebrating a beautiful occasion in our own lives today. But if we're anxious about the future, we're just been removed from the moment and lose the opportunity to really experience deeply and all the benefits of any given moment.
Right.
You can even make the same case for experiencing pain. If you're, let's say, grieving right now, something seriously has been lost, and you're anxious about some other issue, let's say, another problem in your life that could happen, you can't even experience the grief now fully. And our lives are complicated enough in the moment to have to bring into the moment the past and the future as well. And it just makes it harder to do everything, particularly experience all the good things in today's moment, and even to properly, fully digest the difficult things. So that's the subject for today. But we did, in the interim over the last couple of weeks, get some useful feedback about this program. And I wanted to also, even before we get into the content for today, give a little bit of an orientation for the people who are following us, who we are, what we care about, in addition to that subject. And so for those of you who may not know Robin and myself, we've been together for 15 years, working together, and life partners as well for a long time. And when we met, we were sort of in the middle of our lives and had a lot of experience, and experienced things perhaps that we had dreamed about improving, found each other and found a lot in common. And we wove together our personal and professional lives to, in recognition of our experience and our training and our background and our hearts, try to share our own lives with others, so that in reflecting our own experiences, and then overlaying our expertise in our professional pursuits, we could perhaps provide some practical information for other people, and at the same time join them in a community, be part of their community, because we see community as being such an important part of how we accomplish this, not just what we know, not just what we learn, but what kind of support we need to actually get it done. So we need this community as much as perhaps anyone, and the community itself is as valuable as the information. But with regard to this program and the information we'd like to share, we like the idea of taking individual subjects that we have encountered in our own lives and to bring them to light, talk about them a little between ourselves. We definitely have, Robin and I, naturally slightly different perspectives on the same subjects. And in our own dialogue, perhaps people see the dilemmas that they face. And then we want to sort of boil it down to perhaps 1, 2, 3, a handful at the most of concrete, practical things you can do with the information that we're providing. So today, as an example, when the subject is the stories we tell ourselves, I'm thinking, and Robin, maybe you can add your own thought on this, but I'm thinking of at least one thing that is practical that we want to leave you with, those of you who are watching us, which is recognize you're telling yourself a story. That's one thing that I want to share, is that in a lot of the experience we have certainly is based on the reality of that moment. But then our interpretation and our thought process goes into a whole nother set of things that go on that embellish the experience with a story. Our own interpretation, our projections of the future, our memories of the past. We ascribe motives to other people. We blame sometimes other people or other things. These are all, some of it could be true, frankly, and an independent observer may agree, but a lot of it's our own stuff. And if we're at least aware that we've got our own stuff, we have a new opportunity to separate our own stuff from what's really happening. So I think that's the first step in helping ourselves deal with things that are challenging us, which is to discriminate between what is real and objective. A book Robin and I were listening to recently, which is titled Say What You Mean, said, if somebody was filming it, would they see the same thing you're seeing?
Right.
The film is objective. If somebody else can see exactly that, then that's what you can rely on. Everything else perhaps is your own interpretation. So your own thinking in your head, the blame, the motivations you ascribe to other people, your predictions of the future cannot be seen on the film. And discriminate that, because if we just think about the film, I think that's a good step toward relieving ourselves of the extra burdens that sometimes difficult experiences present. So Robin, that's one thing I wanted to say is a deliverable for today. How about you?
Right. Yeah. Well, everything that you just described about the story that we tell ourselves and is beautifully expressed in helping us understand the discernment of whether we're in the moment or we are now future projecting about the future. And what just came to me as you were speaking, you know, the primitive part of us, like animals, will tend to go into reactivity, which we talk about a lot. So in that moment, really, if we're really looking at it, and underneath, you know, where it comes from is this survival capacity that we have. And in the survival, the story in the moment may save your life. However, what you're saying is, you know, that we stay there longer than we need to. So just to add on, one of the tips that I actually practiced with myself when I was really realizing that I really had a story here and I was staying in it, what you were describing, and that repetition looping is where we lose the capacity to be in the moment, because we're not anymore. We're still stuck in the story. So one of the things that a little practice that I even share this with my clients, and I do it myself, I'm much more skilled at it. When I know I'm in the story, is to just write on a little piece of paper for yourself. What I tell myself about this is take responsibility for it, because What the
Mm.
tendency is that we are judging, and then we go into blame, and we go into criticism, and that's the dangerous place. So I'll stop there for a moment. And you have any thoughts on that process? Do you think it'd be helpful?
I think that's really great. I think to write it down is very practical, and gets us to really think and see how clearly it's like we're writing a script for a movie. Is boy, how much detail we could really be adding to the experience, and maybe in writing it down, it slows us down too, because writing takes some time, where we can see the individual phrases of the script, and we could get deeper eventually into seeing where these things come from. So, if we've had an experience in our lives of the past, somebody has left us, and they never came back. Let's say that's what really happened to us. Well, then every time your spouse leaves you, to go, let's say, on a business trip or something like that, you then get brought back into that experience. Well, one of the times that happened, somebody left me and never came back. And you can sort of see how that could be triggering, and how that can affect your energy. And, all of us have this, and some of those memories are really, all of those memories rather, I think, are really useful for us, because they sort of develop who we are. But part of it is to eventually learn to release the unnecessary, and discriminate between this reality. This person is not that person. This situation is not that situation, so that we can remain open-hearted and stay in our lives in the moment, and continuously cultivate all the goodness, and to feel fully all the difficulty.
Beautiful. The second part to that is really understanding what you're feeling. Of course, I work with people, helping them get in touch with their emotional intelligence. So what's really important to this process is to write the story, and then to go deeper and say to yourself, ask yourself the question, what actually am I feeling? And that will get to what you just shared. And then we can work from there, because when we know it's a feeling, it's not, feelings are not facts. It's just an energy that is moving in our body. And the other thing, somatically, if you had trauma from the past, a lot of people are always cognitive about what's happening in their bodies somatically, like animals. When our body, our cells and energy, and the intelligence of our body gives us a message whether we're safe or not. So we can start working with, oh, this is just a feeling, and oh, what I tell myself is, my husband or my sister is going to steal my shirt again, because she used to steal my shirts all the time when I was younger. So my sister actually is here with me visiting, and I noticed, we were in my closet, and I see her eyeing a few things, and what I just shared to the audience, to everybody, I had that bottom, that somatic feeling, like, wow, she might even steal a shirt. So I said, borrow whatever you'd like, it was just so programmed there for, I think, a good reason. However, this is an easy practice, is to, write it down and really just sit with it. And if you need help, with a therapist or a friend, share it with someone, and that's very helpful as well.
You know what, I think, so I want to summarize, because I think you said some really important things that I want to highlight. One is, what I said was, the first of 4 things now that I think we have that are practical is recognize you're telling yourself a story. Second, you said, is to write it down. The third thing you said is to identify, when you write down some of the elements, the feelings that you have, pull those out. And the fourth thing is to share it. I think in that fourth thing, when sharing it, one of the things that is really valuable is when we tell somebody the story we tell, we don't necessarily have to keep it all in ourselves, but we sort of get to examine ourselves maybe with a little bit of a lighter side to it. is what I'm thinking, is that when you tell somebody a story, hey, this is the story I made up about, my sister and my clothes. After many of those types of stories, even though the feelings might be you felt threatened or you felt vulnerable or you felt worried, after you share it with a friend and you listening to yourself, you might say, gee, that was just, I don't know, I'm going to say this, and Robin, you may not like the word, but that was sort of silly or unnecessary, or there might be, you may look at yourself and laugh a little bit. You may see, take the lighter side to it all and reduce the level of seriousness that you might initially be experiencing. I'm wondering what you think about that, but I think there's something really brilliant in what you said, and that's what I get out of that, which is when you share it, then you get to see your concoction and see how clearly different it is from the reality. And sometimes the listening person might say, you're right, you sort of what I saw when that person did that was, boy, they just loved your clothes, and how flattering that might have been. Instead, you went into, she's about to take them.
That's one way. That's maybe to be, well, actually what I ended up being, I was playful and silly and giggling at myself. I want everyone to be very gentle because, Michael, we practice nonviolent communication and we haven't really gotten into what that actually means. So I don't want to offend anybody. However, we want to call in more compassion and empathy. And when we have that friend who says, oh, I had a sister who used to do the same thing to me. And yeah, I know how that must have felt. And it wasn't really, I was just thinking about it. It wasn't that she took my things. It was that she didn't tell the truth when she took it. So when you write down that story, you can, and then you get into the feelings, you can actually, wow, well, I didn't feel like I could trust her. So then we get deeper down into the, under the trunk of things. And then when we share that with another person and someone can empathize and have compassion with us, then we now can be more present and say, I'm not, my sister and I are not teenagers, we're adults, and I have choice and I have the power to respond to her from that lighter place. So that was sort of,
right. And I think maybe that's a good place to wrap this up and even end, which is when we do this, we recognize we have choice. We're not really just subject to the experience, the feelings, the interpretation, but we can help ourselves glide past it. We can fully experience it. We could recognize the feelings. We can recognize the associations, but we don't have to hold on to it. It doesn't have to stay with us. And that's the choice we can
actually
make.
When you feel something and you feel the feelings, that energy moves through us. When we don't feel the feelings, that's when we get stuck in the story and we're looping. And a lot of us need support with this because this is not what we grew up with. Our parents just didn't have this emotional intelligence. So we are here today to share that with a process and some tools that you can actually do this, and then you can move through.
That's great. Well, Robin, it was really nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. I hope that the rest of your trip is meaningful, and I'll see you when you get back.
Yeah, but just before we leave, just some other information. I neglected to mention that Slow Medicine is our work, Sunraven is our home, and you could reach us at slowmedicine.org, which is the website. And we will be back next week. I will also be remote because I'm in California right now. And when I come back, I will be quarantining myself away from everyone in another location that will be remote. So we'll be remote for the next couple of weeks. Tomorrow is the new moon. So my moon letter comes out tomorrow morning. And the subject of that will be life's purpose. And that's something that we'll talk about next
And
week.
just as a quick note here, I just spoke to our beautiful astrologer and said, this month we're going to have a full moon and a new moon in the same, I think it's October, right? Coming up October. powerful stuff. So anyway, yeah,
Yeah.
well, I'm thinking of you and everybody out there. If you have any questions on this topic today about being more curious about reframing and the emotions and the process, please reach out. Love you too.